In 2008, there was this guy literally sleeping on a factory floor. He's pouring his absolute last remaining millions into a failing rocket company and, a struggling electric car startup just to survive the week.
Which is wild when you think about where he is now.
Right, because you fast forward less than 2 decades, and that same individual is the richest human being in history. We're talking about a guy wielding a literal chainsaw at a political rally, holding a cabinet-level government position, and possessing the technological leverage to just turn off satellite communications for sovereign armies in the middle of a war.
It really is the ultimate case study. It's what happens when you take an uncompromising engineering mindset.
Mhm.
That idea that absolutely any system can be optimized and debugged,
Yeah.
and you force that exact mindset onto the mm, totally unpredictable realities of human society and global politics.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. For those of you who love getting the full picture without, drowning in a million open browser tabs, our mission today is to unpack this staggering, just entirely unprecedented trajectory of Elon Musk.
And we have a really fascinating single source text today.
Exactly. We are looking at the comprehensively updated April 2026 Wikipedia article on Musk. And we are no longer just talking about a tech CEO here. With an $809 billion net worth, we're looking at a figure who has fundamentally rewired global discourse.
Before we go any further, though, you should know that the historical record we're dissecting today is heavily layered with intense political viewpoints. It spans the entire spectrum.
Oh, for sure.
So we have to be clear. We are absolutely not here to endorse a side, validate any narrative, or take a political stance. Our mission for you is strictly and impartially to decode the events, the mechanisms, and the facts exactly as this 2026 snapshot presents them.
Okay, let's unpack this. We all know the standard origin lore by now, right? He's born in Pretoria, South Africa in 1971.
Right, and then he moves to Canada.
Yeah. Emigrates to avoid the apartheid military draft, ends up dropping out of Stanford after literally 2 days, and builds those early internet companies like Zip2 and X.com.
But I don't think we need to dwell on the basics.
No, but there are two early psychological details in this updated text that feel like, I don't know, the Rosetta Stone for his entire 2026 persona.
Oh, you mean the Emerald Mine stuff in his childhood?
Yeah, first the Emerald Mine rumor. The update clarifies that his father, Errol, didn't actually own a massive mine outright. He held a stake in the emeralds produced at 3 small mines. But more importantly, his childhood just sounded brutally violent.
The contrast of his youth is really fascinating. He was finding escapism in expansive science fiction, reading things like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Classic.
Right. But meanwhile, he's navigating a physical reality that he actually described as a paramilitary Lord of the Flies.
Jeez.
He attended this wilderness school where relentless bullying was essentially institutionalized. There's even a documented incident where he was thrown down a concrete staircase by a bully, beaten so severely he had to be hospitalized.
And then, according to Elon at least, he was berated by his own father right upon discharge.
Though to maintain the full picture, the article does note his father vehemently denies the berating part.
Sure, but getting hospitalized by bullies leaves a mark. I mean, it feels like he internalized a worldview where survival means being constantly combative. You can't rely on institutions to protect you, so you just build your own armor.
Which leads directly to his Silicon Valley rise.
Exactly. He merges X.com to form PayPal, but gets ousted as CEO while he's literally on a flight for his honeymoon.
Peter Thiel and the others orchestrated a coup.
Right. And I have to wonder, did that specific betrayal forge his obsession with absolute control?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the PayPal ousting is really the genesis of his absolute control doctrine. He realized that if you don't hold the ultimate leverage, the undeniable voting power, you were entirely expendable.
No matter how visionary you are.
Exactly. He took away the lesson that consensus is just another word for vulnerability.
So he decides to never rely on other people's systems again. Cut to 2002, he wants to send a greenhouse to Mars.
As one does.
Right, so he goes to Russia to buy ICBM's intercontinental ballistic missiles to use as launch vehicles, and the Russians basically mock him and won't sell them at a price he can afford.
So instead of giving up, he just decides to build his own rockets. That's SpaceX.
And this is where I really want to test an analogy with you. It feels like his entire early strategy was basically applying a software update to sluggish hardware industries.
Break that down a bit more. How are you defining the software update approach here?
Well, okay, in traditional aerospace, organizations like NASA spend 10 years and $10 billion mathematically proving a rocket will work before they ever light the engines. It's incredibly slow.
Right. Very methodical.
But software engineers don't do that. They write code, run it, watch it crash, find the bug, fix it, and then run it again an hour later. Musk applied that rapid iteration to physical metal.
Ah, I see.
He blew up rocket after rocket, just learning from the debris each time, until SpaceX mastered landing reusable boosters on drone ships. And he treated cars the exact same way, with Tesla shipping them with over-the-air updates like iPhones.
That iterative methodology is exactly what disrupted those industries.
Mm-hmm.
But, it requires an astronomical tolerance for risk.
Which almost broke him.
Seriously.
Yeah?
The 2008 financial crisis nearly wiped him out. The text highlights how he poured the very last of his PayPal fortune into keeping both SpaceX and Tesla afloat.
He was saved literally hours before bankruptcy by a $1.6 billion NASA resupply contract.
Yeah, he gambled absolutely everything on his own engineering philosophy, and the payoff was historic. By late 2025, a court approved a $1 trillion pay package for him at Tesla, cementing him as the wealthiest human to ever live.
So he mastered physical engineering, he conquered the hardware, but then the narrative makes this massive pivot. He transitions from engineering rockets to engineering society.
Right, jumping into 2022 when he buys Twitter for $44 billion.
The acquisition of Twitter, which he rapidly rebranded to X, was his attempt to apply that same aggressive optimization to human communication.
He completely gutted the staff.
Yeah.
Firing thousands of employees to reduce what he saw as bloated code, basically.
Well, and he fundamentally dismantled the existing content moderation frameworks. But when you remove the moderation guardrails from a global social network, it's not like deleting a bad line of code in a car's braking system.
Your human outputs are wildly unpredictable.
Totally. And the historical record documents a massive, immediate surge in hate speech on the platform. But he didn't stop at just owning the town square. Here's where it gets really interesting. The update has a major section on something launched in October 2025 called Grokipedia.
Oh, yes. Grokipedia. That was introduced by his artificial intelligence venture, XAI.
Right. He promoted it as the definitive anti-censorship alternative to Wikipedia.
But it's not a Wikipedia clone where users are typing in articles from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
It uses an AI engine.
How exactly is the AI changing the information, though?
Well, it acts as an ideological translation layer. According to academic studies from Cornell University and investigations by NBC News cited in the article, Grokipedia actually scrapes and reuses massive amounts of standard Wikipedia content.
Okay.
However, its AI model, Grok, automatically reframes contested political, historical, and social topics to align specifically with right-wing narratives.
Wow. So it takes a neutral historical event and subtly rewrites the tone and the takeaways.
Exactly, and it goes way beyond just tone. The academic analysis pointed out that Grokipedia deliberately pulls in citations from sources that traditional encyclopedias have blacklisted as totally unreliable.
We're talking about conspiracy sites.
Yeah, integrating data from sites like InfoWars and even white supremacist forums like Stormfront, treating them as valid historical citations.
That's intense.
At the same time, outlets like Wired documented that Grokipedia's pages regarding Musk himself were heavily sanitized. It presented him in a remarkably positive light, while completely omitting his major business or personal controversies.
So he bought the communication network, and then he built his own AI-driven reality engine to accompany it, which completely mirrors his explicit personal political radicalization.
It really does.
I mean, for years, this was a guy who openly voted for Democrats. Obama, Hillary Clinton, Biden. He even advocated for a universal basic income.
But by 2024, the text outlines that he had become the single largest individual donor in the U.S. election.
Heavily backing Donald Trump and aggressively championing far-right figures across the globe.
And the text presents two completely divergent realities regarding this pivot. Critics, European watchdogs, and civil rights groups view his actions as the deliberate amplification of misinformation and the radicalization of a massive digital follower base.
Right, while his supporters see it differently.
Exactly. Musk's camp frames this shift as the ultimate necessary defense of absolute free speech against a quote-unquote woke left-wing agenda that they believe is destroying civilization.
Regardless of which lens you view it through, keeping our impartiality here, the objective outcome is that his X feed became an incredibly potent megaphone. It was genuinely capable of influencing national elections across multiple continents.
Which culminated in something we have never seen in modern American history. He didn't just donate to a politician. He physically embedded himself into the state apparatus.
Yeah, from January to May 2025, Elon Musk became the senior advisor to the president and the de facto head of a newly created agency called the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE.
The stated mandate of DOGE was to radically cut the federal budget, consolidate bureaucratic agencies, and eventually, according to Musk, quote, delete itself.
The optics of those 130 days were just chaotic. He showed up at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, wielding a literal running chainsaw on stage.
As a prop.
Right, as a prop to symbolize mass layoffs of federal employees. He instituted policies demanding government workers document their daily output via email or face immediate termination.
Pure Silicon Valley disruption tactics.
But the real-world impact was incredibly grim, wasn't it?
Extremely. The transition from disrupting a tech company to disrupting the federal government had severe human costs. The text focuses specifically on his cuts to USAI.
That's the United States Agency for International Development, which handles civilian foreign aid.
Right. And when you abruptly defund an agency like USAID, you aren't just turning off a server. You are instantly severing complex, life-saving supply chains for global food distribution and medicine.
Which had immediate consequences.
Devastating ones. Modeling conducted by Boston University estimated that those specific abrupt cuts resulted in roughly 400,000 children and 200,000 adults dying by November of 2025.
Oh my God.
The fallout was immense. Bill Gates publicly accused Musk of killing the world's poorest children. And ultimately, a federal judge stepped in and ruled that Musk had acted entirely unconstitutionally in his capacity at DOGE.
It wasn't just policy that sparked outrage either. His public behavior was a constant diplomatic crisis. Let's talk about the January 2025 inauguration incident.
Yes. During his speech at the second Trump inauguration, Musk made a specific physical gesture that was widely interpreted across Europe, particularly by German media and politicians, as a fascist or Nazi salute.
He struck his right hand over his heart, then extended his arm outward and upward with the palm down.
Right. Now, to be clear, the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, which monitors hate speech and anti-Semitism, officially stated it did not classify the gesture as a Nazi salute.
But other international Jewish organizations vehemently disagreed. And the truly bizarre part is that neo-Nazi groups online began openly celebrating it as a signal to them.
Musk, for his part, completely dismissed the global uproar, calling the accusations dirty tricks orchestrated by the media.
But it escalated into a genuine international incident anyway. Several European political parties actually introduced motions demanding he be banned from entering their borders.
So he has this terrifying amount of controversial power within the White House. He is actively shaping global policy.
But by May 2025, just months into the administration, the entire partnership spectacularly implodes. How does an alliance with that much leverage shatter so quickly?
The timeline reveals a rapid, cascading deterioration. It basically began when Musk publicly attacked a massive deficit bill proposed by Trump, calling it a disgusting abomination.
And Trump doesn't take criticism well.
No. President Trump, known for demanding absolute loyalty, retaliated by threatening to revoke Musk's extremely lucrative SpaceX and defense contracts.
Oh, wow.
So Musk responded to that threat by escalating the conflict to the absolute limit. On June 5, 2025, he dropped a massive allegation on X. He explicitly claimed that Donald Trump was implicated in the Epstein files.
Whoa.
And he suggested that was the real reason the files hadn't been fully declassified yet.
He lobbed the ultimate grenade.
He really did. Musk deleted the tweet shortly after and issued an apology, stating he went, quote, too far in the heat of the moment, but the damage was irreversible. The alliance was shattered, and he departed the administration within days.
I just have to point out the glaring irony here. You have a man who created the Department of Government Efficiency with the explicit goal of deleting the bureaucracy.
Right.
But he ends up fleeing the government precisely because he couldn't control the political machinery the way he controls the floor of a Tesla gigafactory. Washington isn't a machine you can just write a patch for.
That is the core friction of his entire government stint. In an automotive factory, if a robotic arm is inefficient, you unplug it and throw it in the scrap heap.
Sure.
In Washington, D.C., that inefficient robotic arm has its own political base, a dedicated media ecosystem, and constitutional legal authority. The federal government operates more like an immune system than a computer program.
That's a great way to put it.
When he tried to apply engineering force, the system recognized him as a foreign body and just rejected him.
That June 5th tweet about Jeffrey Epstein is actually a perfect transition into our final section, because in January 2026, the remaining Epstein files were finally unsealed by the courts.
And Elon Musk's own name was in them.
Right. What's fascinating here is how the unsealed documents actually dispel years of rampant internet conspiracy theories.
The 2026 release contained direct email correspondence between Musk and Epstein from 2012 to 2013. The files unequivocally confirm that Epstein repeatedly invited Musk to visit his private island.
But the crucial point is, he didn't go.
He did not. The emails show Musk declining the invitations, stating at one point that a peaceful, secluded island was the opposite of what he was looking for.
The correspondence is pretty bizarre, though.
Very. Musk asked Epstein in the emails which specific day would feature the wildest party. When Epstein warned that the male-to-female ratio on the island might make Musk's then-wife, Tallulah Riley, uncomfortable, Musk replied that the ratio wouldn't be a problem for her.
But the historical record confirms Epstein later canceled those specific plans, and flight logs show Musk never set foot on the island.
Musk reacted to the 2026 file release by calling it a calculated distraction, actually.
Yeah, he accused the current administration of strategically releasing the files to suppress news cycles and protect more entrenched political figures.
Okay, speaking of his personal orbit, the phrase labyrinth doesn't even begin to cover it. The Wikipedia update outlines that Musk identifies heavily as a pronatalist.
Right. He firmly believes that population collapse, not climate change or war, is the single greatest existential threat to human civilization. And he is engineering a solution to that personally.
The text documents that he has at least 14 known children with several different women, including his first wife, Justine Wilson, the musician Grimes, and Siobhan Zillis.
She's an executive at his brain-computer interface company, Neuralink, right?
Exactly. And then there is the highly publicized 2025 paternity drama. This involves a prominent Metier influencer named Ashley St. Clair.
She went public on X, claiming she had given birth to his 13th child, a son named Romulus.
The financial logistics of that situation were eventually made public by Musk himself. He posted that while he was personally unsure if he was the biological father of St. Clair's child, he had paid her $2.5 million.
Part of which was strangely structured as a loan, right?
Yes, and he agreed to continue paying her $500,000 annually.
It's just a completely different stratosphere of reality.
Right.
And that erratic reality seems to be fueled by a highly controversial regimen.
You're talking about the drug reports.
Yeah, thorough investigations published by the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal detailed his ongoing use of doctor-prescribed ketamine, which he openly admits to, alongside alleged use of LSD and cocaine at private events.
Musk publicly defended his ketamine use.
Yeah.
He argued that it was actually beneficial for his investors because it alleviated his depression and maximized his extreme productivity.
Interesting defense.
However, the update notes that his escalating reliance on various substances raised profound alarms among his executive boards and family members. They correlated his drug use with his increasingly volatile decision-making during his time in the White House.
Which brings me to what might be the most bizarrely relatable yet deeply telling detail in this entire massive text. His video game habit.
Oh, this is fascinating.
This is a man running SpaceX, Tesla, XAI, Neuralink, the Boring Company, and simultaneously serving in the White House. And he is still logging massive hours playing the action role-playing game Diablo 4. Can you explain the January 2025 gaming scandal?
Certainly. Musk frequently boasted on podcasts and on X that he was one of the top-ranked players globally in incredibly complex, time-consuming games like Diablo 4 and Path of Exile 2.
Okay.
However, leaked chat transcripts and gaming community investigations revealed that he was engaging in a practice known as account boosting.
Meaning he wasn't actually putting in the hundreds of hours of grinding to achieve that elite rank?
Exactly. He eventually admitted to paying outside services, essentially hiring highly skilled proxy gamers to play on his personal account while he was busy.
Oh, wow.
They did all the tedious grinding to achieve the top-tier rankings, which he then claimed as his own. He justified the behavior by stating that all the top players use boosting services, so he was forced to do it just to remain competitive in the leaderboards.
The psychological irony there is just staggering. You have a man who views himself as the ultimate, hardcore, meritocratic builder.
The guy who famously sleeps on the freezing factory floor to make sure the Model 3 gets built right.
Exactly. The guy who fires thousands of government workers for perceived inefficiency. And yet, in a purely digital fantasy world where the only currency is the time and skill you put in, He is quietly taking shortcuts and using his vast wealth to buy a high score.
This raises an important question about his core philosophy. It really highlights a profound contradiction between his public ethos of extreme, uncompromising hard work and his private willingness to utilize his leverage to bypass the rules of any system when he demands immediate gratification.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive looking at an engineer, a guy who genuinely believed he could write a clean software update for humanity.
And we've explored a figure who operates on a scale that is genuinely previously unimaginable.
He lands 15-story reusable rockets on barges in the ocean. He pushes the boundaries of human evolution with Neuralink implants. But he also creates Grokopedia to aggressively rewrite political realities.
He serves in the White House, wields a chainsaw, drastically alters global foreign aid, and navigates immense personal chaos with 14 children and public feuds with presidents.
And this is exactly why understanding this text matters directly to you listening at home. The historical record explicitly notes that political scientists and economists now classify Musk as an American oligarch.
He is no longer just a businessman selling you a shiny electric car or providing a fast satellite internet connection.
No. His personal whims, his ideological biases, his drug use, and his late-night tweets have the tangible power to alter global financial markets.
They can sway national elections. Through his Starlink network, he literally holds the unilateral power to turn off communication infrastructure for armies actively engaged in combat.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. As humanity pushes further into the 21st century, watching a single individual amass this staggering level of unchecked leverage, we have to ask ourselves something.
When one private citizen wields more wealth, more communication power, and more technological dominance than most sovereign nations on Earth, does our traditional understanding of democracy and global governance even apply anymore?
Or have we quietly entered a completely new era of feudalism where the kings just happen to wear tech bro t-shirts?
It is the defining question of our era.
We started by talking about blueprints. When you build a rocket engine, you expect clean inputs and clean outputs. But when the machine you are trying to completely re-engineer is human civilization itself, the blueprint isn't clean anymore. It is unpredictable. And right now, Elon Musk is the one holding the pen. Catch you next time.